parking hours of operation, parking rates, and violation rates. Introduce yourself.
I will. We have. My name is Gary Lammer. I'm the parking project manager. And again, with me is Steve Thornton, who is the finance director for the city of Keene. Back in November, part of my responsibilities that I was hired on to do was to look at the entire parking division and to review the resources that we currently use and what in the future is going to be needed to continue to maintain a sustainable parking fund. As most of you are aware, there's been many discussions about parking. The first thing that we would like to go over is a little bit of history of why we're here. First of all, the parking division is here to try and maintain the downtown area to provide parking for the downtown businesses, to be able to have parking for their businesses to maintain a healthy fund. So as we walk through this process, go through this process of reviewing, we have gone to many other organizations, many other parking divisions across the state and discussed their operations and how they operate. And we all come to the same conclusion that our main function here is to make sure that we are compliant with the downtown parking ordinances, to be able to better assure the businesses in the downtown area that, again, to provide parking for them and have convenient parking for them. So with that, we have a very vibrant downtown area. We continue in the evenings to have large gatherings in the downtown. And again, during the daytime, as we move through the, excuse me, I'm off here, so I missed one of my points. Let's just start to say that we are here to provide the parking for the downtown businesses, to provide them parking as a partnership, to be able to help them, again, to sustain a good business and to be a vibrant downtown area. Just so you're aware, the parking division is actually a special revenue fund. The parking operations actually pays for the operational portion of what we do, which is the enforcement, and it also pays for the maintenance of the current parking lots and structures, and is supported by user fees. The parking fund is there so that we do not burden the taxpayer with extra taxes to be able to help pay for these projects and to help maintain operations. As we've reviewed throughout the years of the parking, and again, the chair currently here at the FOP committee is probably very familiar with the parking process that has gone on in the city for many years, as he was part of the parking commission. And in 2001 was the last time that the rates had been changed as far as meter rates. And when that was brought forward, it was brought forward basically to show that the revenues and the expenses were no longer meeting the requirements to sustain a healthy parking fund. So again, in 2002, there was an ordinance that was put through to be able to raise the rates for parking meters in the downtown area. And at that time, those rates were 25 cents for an hour, and it went to 25 cents for a half an hour. That was the last time it was raised. Prior to that, it was 13 years prior, which is somewhere around 1988. And as you're starting to see a pattern that we've gone a considerable amount of time between rate increases, and has now again shown that we are having an expense that's higher than what our parking revenues are bringing in. Also, part of the projects that we do here is we have parking garages, we have parking lots that have to be maintained. Over the past few years, the parking Public Works Division has come forward, and they've been working diligently to try and improve the maintenance programs on all of our parking lots and structures. This year here, you'll see some work being done on the City Hall, which is going to be a little bit more aggressive than what we've done in the past. They're going to be sandblasting, corrosion, painting, and they'll be doing the same thing at the Wells deck. The Wells deck, however, we have noticed that we've had some deterioration that is occurring. We've been having some what's called spalling of the concrete under the first floor deck, and that is causing some concern at this point as to the structural, not so much the structural integrity, but structurally what needs to be done to maintain it and to correct the problem. We will be bringing in an engineer, a structural engineer, to take a look at that, to be able to give us some advice as to how to move forward with that. So this is one of those projects that wouldn't typically have enough money to be able to pay for through a capital improvement program if our parking fund isn't being sustained at the rate that it needs to be sustained at. So with that said, what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about the financial status of the parking fund. Again, the last time the rates were raised for any portion of the either rates, violations, and or reserved spaces was 2002. In 2009, there was a presentation brought forward by the Keene Police Department to be able to look at rates and violations and reserve rates, which are the lease spaces that we currently have in the lots. And at that point, the reserve rates were increased, and the others were not. So with that said, I'd like to have Steve Thornton just talk a little bit about our financial status, what we are currently having today for expenses, what we currently show today for revenue, and also what our projections are if we remain the same, and what our projections may be if we look at increases. Thank you. And I apologize for the bumbling at the beginning.
Okay, on the second page back, in the handout for the area was, we've got a table and a graph. And before we look at these, I'd just like to comment that what we're trying to look at here are the revenues that are derived from the operations of the parking fund and our expenditures directly related to parking enforcement and the maintenance of our facilities. And that's a roundabout way of saying what I've excluded from this presentation for the sake of simplicity is any of our activity funded by the tax increment financing district. It normally is that is pretty much a wash. Raise taxes to cover debt service for certain improvements that have been done. And for a capital reserve, most years it's a wash, but you know, it's also our budgeting is done on estimates, and so sometimes it's not quite a wash. But this is what we're looking at here, our operating revenues and expenditures. We start out with FY08, and we've got through FY13 of actuals of our operations, and then some projections based on our current rate structure and the way our expenditures have grown. And what they show is that through FY11 we had positive net income. FY12 we operated at a little bit of a loss. FY13 a little bit bigger loss. We budgeted a little bit more in FY14, and we've gotten to a place where, having not looked at our revenues in a long time, and our town doesn't change that much. When you look at our revenues derived from our operations, there are a couple of little spikes, but it's really fairly flat. We have some spikes for some reason. We have a year here and there that's busy, but our revenues are pretty flat. Our expenditures slowly grow, and the chart indicates, indicates that what we're doing, why we can absorb losses right now, is because we generated net income and fund balance in prior years, and we're getting to a place where we're using up our fund balance, and our projections say, around 2018 we'll be operating at a deficit in the fund.
Wait, question. Looking at the operating and capital expenditures.
Yep.
I don't really understand why it goes up and down quite as it's going.
A big part of the up and down there is the capital, and because we have different types of projects. For instance, some of our capital numbers, say 2010 through 2013, $68,000 in 1 year, $18,200 in 11, $73,544 in 12, in 111,568. So
What?
What's that?
What were they?
These are, well, I'm sorry, I can't say exactly what they are, I don't remember, but we have appropriations that come through the CIP for work on our decks and our parking lots. You know, just going into the future, you know, a similar thing in the current CIP is we've got $99,000 in 1 year, in FY15, $80,000 in 17, and $24,000 in 19. And, you know, it depends on the type of work, like, in this case, we're doing Gilboa Avenue East and West with a mill, shim, and an overlay, pavement markings. FY17, we've got a similar project on Gilboa East. We've got some work on commercial street, that's pavement sealing and pavement markings. And in 19, we've got the Well Street surface lot.
So what I'm hearing and understanding and want to communicate is that these expenditures are the maintenance of the properties. If we don't do it, the parking lots fall apart.
That's right.
If we don't continue this discussion, we can't maintain the parking for the public.
That's right.
It's not like we're having some big block party out there or something.
No, this is pretty routine stuff on our
Yeah.
existing structures. We started probably 2006 or 2007, working with Public Works to develop a bit of a program for addressing
Okay,
those lots.
I think it's very important that it be communicated to the public that it's the expenditures in maintaining the facilities that are driving these expenses. We don't have $757,000 worth of staff out there collecting quarters.
Right.
Because, you know, that's a very important concept. The ups and downs of the revenue, I can understand business ebbs and flows. It's a good winter, it's a bad winter. I had a conversation with Mr. Lamoureux. I need a better title for you. That with the good enforcement of the meters, that cuts down on the perception that you can get away with it, so you tend to put your quarter in the meter, therefore fewer violations are issued, fewer revenue comes in, and it becomes a very confusing battle of issues there. Continue with your presentation, I have a page full of questions for you. I wanted to clarify those two comments.
I think I've about covered it. I want to talk about this sheet with our revenues projections and the following sheet with our unallocated fund balance. And that is simply showing that, you know, we are building that up for a while and now it's dropping off again. So,
Okay. Okay, you've answered basically what the parking fund revenue pays for, and it's a question perhaps to you or to the city manager. Some of these capital expenditures, might they be more appropriately coming through the general fund, since it is of general purpose to the general public, as opposed to just the parking public? Because that's another way of balancing the dollars.
There's tremendous competition for the property tax dollar, whether it be the county government, the schools, or the city government. The city has historically tried to keep its use of the property tax dollar to the minimum it possibly can. By adding in the parking in any way, shape, or form, it would drive the cost to the property taxpayer versus the user. In this particular case, you have a user community downtown who work, shop, and come here for other recreational purposes. And it is a legitimate way of passing along the cost for maintaining parking and having a viable economic entity downtown. Right now, we enjoy many businesses being downtown, but they do depend on parking. And their customers are willing to pay, I think, some reasonable amount of money. And the city of Keene right now has probably the lowest parking rates in the state of New Hampshire. I'd ask Gary Lamoureux to confirm that, but that's my understanding. So we're a good deal, have been for quite some time, and we're looking for some modest increases going forward.
Okay, and I'm just throwing out different thoughts. There was another discussion that I had with Gary regarding what's called scofflaws. Those folks that get their tickets and go back to Connecticut or Kansas or wherever they go. Any idea how much money is lost to that, and what are we doing about it?
Well, currently, we track where, you know, how many tickets are paid and what isn't paid. We do have uncollected fines The difficulty is, as you state, we do have a college community here, and we do have visitors that come in from other states. Once they do receive a violation, it's very difficult to track them down. We do have a new program that we're working on right now that will be able to purchase that information to be able to pass along notices to them so that they're aware that they are owed. Again, in the city of Keene, it falls down under the registration portion of it. If you are a city of Keene citizen and you do have violations, they must be paid before you register your vehicle. So there are some things in place to be able to assist with that. We do have unpaid tickets, which is something that happens annually, and we're trying to find ways now to be able to try and recover some of those funds to help increase our revenue.
It's not appropriate what we're doing here. The parking commission did discuss booting. We used to have boots, and I know that they are towed occasionally. Vehicles are towed when they're really excessive numbers of fines. Committee, yes, sir.
We'll go back to that discussion about taxing or tax revenues for parking. We're no different than any other community across the country. Parking is an enterprise fund, it's separate and above taxing. So, I don't think we ought to even begin the discussion of making those kinds of changes, because it's really not a service that we make available to the general public. It's an enterprise fund, and it should operate as an enterprise fund and be able to cover its expenses. And I think we're doing what any business would do, having this discussion about how to get some more revenue. I don't think that discussion should include taxes.
I know we talked 2009, but time's going by fast. We talked about it, and I know the chief was talking about how we were working into cooperative deals with other communities, and I think you were talking about Bedford at that time, to help us to recover